82% of people saw that video. 53% think that he should be criminally charged for it. And then the Wall Street Journal comes out and they're reporting that there are incentives for ICE agents, because they need to meet that insane 3,000 people a day quota, that they're getting rewarded even if they bring in people who then get released. These stories of Americans being detained saying, show me your papers. There was a veteran, U.S. veteran, who's on a Carnival cruise, being arrested and a U.S. veteran on a Carnival cruise with his wife, who was taken out of his cabin, someone who served this country.
What is the percentage?
U.S. citizen. Do not act like ICE isn't making, I don't even know how many mistakes a day in pursuit of Stephen Miller's 3,000 a day quota and getting paid for it.
3,000 people a day. 3,000 people. Doesn't matter if they're U.S. citizens or if they're undocumented or if they're just violent criminals. Doesn't matter. Just load them up. You know what I mean? Now, call me old-fashioned, but I think that having quotas for human beings is kind of barbaric. But not everybody is as old-fashioned as I am. So let's hear from Jesse. I just slipped out of a Vaseline jar, Waters.
You can't ask for people's papers.
You can't ask.
How are you supposed to know if they have an ID or not, Jessica?
You're supposed to know who they are. And Americans, you cannot go up to an American citizen and be like,
Jessica, you either have an American passport, driver's license, or you don't. How else are you going to know?
Random ID checks. Secretary Noem today said people should carry ID to confirm their legal status, something not legally required of U.S. citizens except in circumstances like travel.
We did it, folks. We made America great again. Just make sure you don't forget your ID at home, or you could be kidnapped, thrown into an unmarked vehicle, and totally disappear. But that's just the kind of America Jesse Waters wants to live in, you know, one where you have to carry around your papers like this. Where was it? There was some other time in history where that had to happen. Anyway, let's take a closer look at the kind of America that Jesse Waters and all of the patriots at Fox News want us to live in.
How much of a can you be?
Now y'all, this is what we're talking about. Y'all antagonizing people. Y'all instigating. Y'all instigating. Y'all bogus as hell.
That was an elderly U.S. citizen being dragged half naked out of his home and into sub-zero temperatures. ICE broke down his front door without a warrant, entered the home with guns drawn, and proceeded to arrest him in front of his 5-year-old grandson. So congratulations, Jesse Waters. You did it. You should really, really be proud of yourself, because we know your family isn't. Now, if you guys think ICE is only targeting civilians, guess again. They're also coming after law enforcement for making the mistake of not wearing blue while also being brown. Good God.
We started hearing from our police officers the same complaints as they fell victim to this while off duty. Every one of these individuals is a person of color who has had this happen to them. In Brooklyn Park, one particular officer that shared her story with me was stopped as she passed ICE going down the roadway. When they boxed her in, they demanded her paperwork, of which she's a U.S. citizen and clearly would not have any paperwork. When she became concerned about the rhetoric and the way she was being treated, she pulled out her phone. In an attempt to record the incident, the phone was knocked out of her hands, prevented her from recording it. The officer had their guns drawn during this interaction. And after the officer became so concerned, they were forced to identify themselves as a Brooklyn Park police officer in hopes of slowing the incident and de-escalating the incident down. The agents then immediately left after hearing this, making no other comments, no other apologies, just got in their vehicles and left. I wish I could tell you that this was an isolated incident. In fact, many of the chiefs standing behind me have similar incidents with their off-duty officers. This isn't just important because it happened to off-duty police officers, but what it did do is we know that our officers know what the Constitution is, they know what right and wrong is, and they know when people are being targeted, and that's what they were. If it is happening to our officers, It pains me to think of how many of our community members are falling victim to this every day.
Hey, I got an idea. Can we as a country just stop being so racist for like a day? You know, just a day, just to give everybody a breather. Can we just put ourselves in timeout for a little bit and just think, you know, about our actions a little bit? No, we can't, because Stephen Miller said so. So round them up. Now, if you're like me and you're chronically online and therefore exhausted, you might be under the impression that Republicans are cheering this on across the board. But to better understand where they're actually at, let's look to one of my favorite political analysts, Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah, okay. The answer is that the party that does have a motivation problem is the Republican Party, okay? You know, this, I think, sort of tells the story. Extremely motivated to vote this election cycle. You go back to October of 2024, just before Donald Trump was reelected. Hello, Republicans led on this measure. 67% of Republicans, or those who lean Republicans, said they were extremely motivated to vote in 2024, compared to just 62% of Democrats. Republicans felt like, hey, we're going out for ice cream, like a child going out for ice cream. You come over to this side of the screen, Republican enthusiasm down. Now they feel like they're going to the dentist. Just 50% of Republicans say they're extremely motivated to vote in 2026, compared to 66% of Democrats. That's actually up a little bit. So Republicans are depressed in terms of their motivation compared to Democrats, and very much so compared to Republicans back during the 2024 cycle.
The dentist. Sorry, I don't know how to do impressions, but I do know how to spot an agency with a fundamental lack of accountability that's wreaking havoc all over this nation and causing unquantifiable amounts of damage that will extend far, far beyond this present news cycle. All of this reminds me of something called Will Hoyt's Law, which is actually commonly misattributed to the political scientist Francis Will Hoyt and not its proper author, some other guy. But Will Hoyt's Law basically says that there's one fundamental principle of conservatism. That is that there must be an in-group for whom the law protects but does not bind, alongside an out-group for whom the law binds but does not protect. And I think if you take that idea and you map it over most conservative issues, it works fairly well, but nowhere better than with immigration. Renee Good, who is dead, should have just obeyed the officers. The law in her instance should have bound her. Was the job in her instance. But the state will absolutely use the law to protect Jonathan Ross because he's part of the in-group. And that's what we call a microcosm. And as all the esoteric traditions teach us, as above, so below. Because while that is one particular instance, it is also a microcosm for the overall way that this administration looks to immigration, okay? It is all about using the law to protect who they like and to exclude who they don't like. That's all it is. Well, that and the racism, you know what I mean? Just pure racism. Fortunately, however, this does seem to be taking some of the air out of Republican Cybertruck tires. So that's at least one glimmer of hope in this hellscape. Oh, I just figured it out. That's why Jesse Waters loves this so much, because we're living in like a hell, and he's like a little demon. He's like a demon, you know. It was right there in front of me, and I couldn't see it. Egg on my face. Anyway, let me know what you think about all this stuff in the comments. F ICE, and I will see you all next week.